Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to this edition of the Sync Your Life podcast. Today, I am joined by my friend, Charles Livingston. He is going to talk to us today a little bit about the concept of clean coffee. He is the founder and CEO of Lifeboost Coffee. He's also known as Dr. Charles, which I love that. I know him as Charlie, but Dr. Charles is a board certified chiropractic physician, a certified wellness practitioner, and nutrition expert. He received his doctorate of chiropractic, graduating with honors from the world-renowned Palmer College of Chiropractic. He's a very strong passion for helping others to become their best version of themselves, to be as healthy as possible. So we definitely have that in common. That has led him on a journey to take a beverage that 50% of the population drinks on a daily basis to make it the healthiest, cleanest, tastiest version on the planet. From that, Lifeboost Coffee was born. Lifeboost hit number 80 on the Inc. 5000 for the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the US for 2021. And it is still growing. And it's actually what I have right in front of me today. I have the Highlander Grog in front of me this morning. It's my favorite. So so this makes him the founder of the fastest growing coffee company in the US to date. So I'm so excited that he took the time to be on here with us today. Charlie and I have one major thing in common, which is that we are from the same small hometown. We're from the same hometown in southeastern Indiana, and that's how we know each other. So, and oddly enough, several years ago, we kind of kept bumping into each other at the grocery store and the local restaurants. And lo and behold, my husband and I built a house in this neighborhood, and his son rings our doorbell on like the second day that we lived here, asking if we wanted to buy coffee. And so that's kind of what brought us sort of reconnected us, I guess you could say. But I'm so glad that he's taken the time out to talk to us today. Charlie, thanks for being here.
Hey, my pleasure, Jenny. My pleasure.
So you're in your office right now. I see all the coffee behind you.
I am. I work from home, so my little fur babies I locked them out because they get to be distracting sometimes. But I've got coffee all over this office just for R&D and
for sure. Yeah, so I know not everybody's going to be able to see the video, but if you could see us right now, both of us are I've got my cup of coffee. I'm sure he's got his. Coffee is definitely a way of life for me. It's something that I was introduced to in my early 20s. I didn't drink it until I was probably close to 25 years old. My husband was a big fan, but
I didn't drink it until I was 33.
33, wow, yeah. And so I always loved the smell of it. Like I loved walking into coffee shops and smelling it, but I could never get on board with the taste. And eventually I did, because eventually, adulthood kicks in and you're like, I need something for a little boost here.
Yeah.
And so I started drinking it, and, I think in college was the first time I really tried it. And I would have all sorts of issues with like brain fog, jitters, anxiety. And I thought it was just me because, here I would be with my girlfriends or my sorority sisters at the coffee shop, and I'm sitting there internally freaking out in like a state of fight or flight, and they're like enjoying their cup of coffee. So that was my first inclination, sort of self-awareness that coffee affected me differently. And I know we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, but I want to find out first, if you could just sort of tell our listeners, how did you get started in coffee? Like I know we just introduced you as, doctor of chiropractic. So tell us a little bit of your background. Like how did things start for you, maybe right out of school?
Yeah. So, I went to Franklin College, graduated there, major biology, minor pre-med. From there, went to chiropractic school in Davenport, Iowa, which is where Palmer College of Chiropractic is, which is the first college of chiropractic in the history of the world, I guess. Right. So went there, graduated, got out, practiced for about 5 years or so, and literally just felt like I had a calling for something bigger than seeing people one-on-one. I absolutely loved practicing. Saw amazing things happen with the health of patients and stuff. But I just felt like I wasn't being true to who I should be, I guess would be the best way to say it. So, then I, best friend since kindergarten, Bradley. Mm-hmm. Brad, he also went to school with us. He was online and just killing it and was telling me what he was doing. And so I was like, he's like, just come with me. I'll show you how to do it. So I said, okay. So I stopped practicing. I went with him, and that's how my journey into health online started. From there, we started a digital weight loss program that it took couple years. It was like a 2-year overnight success, I guess you could say. And then we just finally hit traction and it took off. And we were on one of the, at that time, it was before Kindle. We were number, 1 on this platform that was for digital ebooks for a couple years. So that kind of paved the way. I've got an extensive background in health and nutrition just from chiropractic school and all the extra studies that I did. But from there, we started to do supplement. We took that, we iterated it into a supplement company. And honestly, doing the supplement company, coffee literally just fell in my lap. It was it's one of those things where the more opportunities and the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities come to you, right? And it was kind of a timing thing then, because I was just starting to get into like the research of coffee, and bulletproof coffee had just come out, and the whole adding butter to your coffee, and I was super fascinated by that, and the biochemistry and biology behind of how that affects your brain health. And it sucked me in. And literally this small farm in Nicaragua came to me. They were taking my supplements and they're like, "We love your supplements. Will you allow us to put your supplements in our coffee?" And I'm like, this would be a terrible idea because these are liver herbs, right? They're super bitter. I was like, "You want to do that?" But I like coffee. I'm starting to get into it. Send me some of your coffee. It was the best coffee I'd ever had in my life. So, after doing some research and looking into it deeper, I started working with them, and then eventually, branched out on my own. And now I have like 4 roasters, and that's kind of how Lifeboost was born. And then from there, we just iterated it to figure out why the coffee, because I kept getting like a lot of these things just happened, and like we had to figure out why they were happening. Like I would start getting testimonials every single day from people drinking the coffee saying, "I can't believe I can actually drink this coffee. I haven't been able to drink coffee in 20 years. So turns out we researched the way it was grown, and it was because of the area that was in, the way it was grown, it created an extremely low acid coffee. And as people age, they have problems drinking coffee because it causes heartburn or bloating or digestive issues, things like that, and they stop drinking it. But if you find a good, healthy source of low acid coffee, they can drink it. It's just fine. So we still get testimonials daily about, "I can't believe I can drink this coffee." So that's kind of the beginning of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because for me, like I mentioned before, I didn't drink coffee till my 20s. And what turned me onto coffee was also the bulletproof coffee phenomenon, I guess that you could say. I started hearing about it. I've always been really into, listening to health and nutrition related podcasts. And I got hooked onto Dave Asprey's podcast, listening to it every day. And that's what really sparked my interest. I thought, well, here I've always had problems with traditional coffee shop coffee, or store-bought coffee. Like maybe I should try a different type of bean. Maybe the actual coffee bean does matter. So that's what I want to ask you about specifically. So if you could tell us, like, how are the Lifeboost coffee beans different? Like, what is it, tell us more about like where it's grown, how it's harvested, what is it that makes it different when it comes to your health than other coffee beans?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, our signature bean is Nicaraguan. So one of the things that we notice is the area is grown is around like a natural reserve, I think, down there. And so it's grown around those regions. And so it's high elevation grown. So it's grown a mile above sea level, which when it's grown that high, it slows the maturity of it. And also it's such a harsher environment that it's harder for molds to grow. So automatically from the start, it keeps, it helps to lower the mold count on coffee. So that's one. 2, it's shade grown. And shade grown, basically they don't need pesticides or herbicides or anything like that. Being grown in the shade. So it's also grown, we allow it to grow full maturity, which allows the nutrients to really get into the bean. The longer you let it grow. Most conventional coffee is picked early and it's sun grown, because coffee is the 3rd most drank beverage in the world, right? Next to water's first, tea second, then coffee. And because of that, it's a cash crop. So obviously when you have a cash crop, you got to figure out how to grow as much of it as fast as possible. just like anything else, you sacrifice quality for quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how. So we're doing the opposite. We make sure our beans are organic or certified organic, depending on, sometimes the small farmers, don't have the money to make it organic, right? So we have basically a checklist that we run all of our coffee through. One, it's going to be certified organic or organic, shade grown. It needs to be elevation grown, and then spring water washed, roasted a certain way. So it's all these things. And then at the end of this checklist that we have, that we run all of our beans through, we third-party test to verify that the beans are as clean as possible. So we're testing for mycotoxins, molds, heavy metals, pesticides, and 400 other toxins. And we're getting ready to test for even more, just because I want to be like the cleanest bean on the planet. So we're going to invest in doing more tests on these beans.
Yeah, that's great. So, I want the average person who's listening to this, who might be drinking, Starbucks every day, or, I don't know, some other brand of coffee that they're purchasing at the grocery store. Like, what is it about mold toxins? Because I know I've heard some interesting stuff about just mold toxins on whether it's our food. Like, I've heard it being really prevalent in things like peanut butter. I talk about that in my course when women are asking about healthy fats. I always say, well, maybe steer away from peanut butter, as we know there are a lot of mold toxins there. But what is it about mold toxins in our food or in our coffee that, like, what kind of symptoms can that bring about in women or in people in general?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many different, I don't know. It's sometimes when you get like bugs like this, or, molds or yeast or parasites, things like that, a lot of them will come up with very similar symptoms. But with this, it's like you just feel lethargic, brain fog. Like it could cause joint problems. It could cause breathing problems. I mean, the list is it. One, it depends on how sensitive the person is, and two, everybody's affected differently, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just depends on what your weak link is biologically in your body, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, I have a lot of women that complain about like sort of like a sour stomach, like a highly acidic digestive tract. One of the things that we really encourage in our Sync course is really kind of starting with the foundation of the gut and understanding, is your gut functioning properly? Are you eliminating properly? Are you digesting properly? And it always surprises me how many women are consuming coffee because they enjoy it. But they'll turn around and, they'll say, oh, I love my coffee, I can't go without it. And that's why I just deal with all these other side effects. That's why I deal with sort of an upset stomach or belly bloat or whatever. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can have your cup and drink it too, right? Like you can have both. So yeah, so awesome. So, one thing that I came up against in my own personal journey was, I started drinking clean coffee beans. I guess it was probably about 10 years ago. And like I said, I just saw a total difference. Like I could actually feel more clarity when I was working. I wouldn't call it like a traditional caffeine boost. It was almost like a more focused energy type feeling. And that's what I wish for everyone. Everyone that's consuming coffee or enjoys coffee, they deserve to feel good while they're drinking it and after they're drinking it, and not having those crashes. But I remember when I went into my doctor's office for routine blood work, and I was starting to have some issues, which later we discovered were related to low iron. That tends to be something that follows me around is low iron. And so, but my doctor at the time said, we really need to start looking at your adrenals. She's like, you'd like to train hard, you'd like to exercise. At that time I was a new mom. I had a less than 1 year old. So she's like, you're kind of burning the candles at both ends. Like, you're up during the night with your daughter, you're pushing your body in your workouts. Like, maybe you should back off of the coffee. I'm curious, what your thoughts are, being, someone who's so knowledgeable with this particular coffee, being someone who's a doctor of chiropractic and into the sort of the holistic health world. Like, what is your perspective on clean coffee? How should it be addressed for women dealing with adrenal fatigue? What is your take on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'm one of those types that I'm like, I hate eliminating stuff from people without giving them a solution, right? And so like coffee is so ingrained. It's a ritual that people have to have every single day. And like for me, like I'm doing it every single day. I love it. I enjoy the ritual of making it. It's like just a moment between me, just for myself. It's like a way to self-love, I guess, if you would put it that way. So it's super important, and I hate taking that type of stuff away from people. There is truth to that. We are in a chronic state of fight or flight, right? So your adrenals are already amped up because of our lifestyle. You're dealing, with all the things you're barraged with, outside stimuli, on top of, kids, on top of, you have a lot of different things you're thinking and worrying about, finances, whatever. All these things are just hammering you. And so your adrenals go up to push out that adrenaline. But it also causes you to stress, right? So how do you deal with that? And coffee, boosts your adrenaline, your adrenal glands. So which is why you feel that extra bump in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes like, why? Like, what can you do to be able to do that? And my solution is to do like a half calf or a very good decaf. So you're still getting, like, I would say move down to half calf. You don't want to totally eliminate it. That way that you can still have a little bit of that bump, but not like to the detriment of your body.
I love that.
Stuff accumulates over time, right? It's not just, that's one of those things, like you can't view life as like, well, I just got to stop, right? It's more like, if you do something, don't feel guilty doing it, just do it.
Right.
But then don't do it all the time, right?
Right. Or
all that stuff adds up, right? If you're gonna eat a piece of cheesecake, eat the cheesecake, enjoy it in that moment. And then like, don't eat it every day, right?
Right.
So, because there's an emotional component as well that, if you're dealing with some heavy emotions, that also stresses you out, which also boosts your adrenal glands, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all interconnected. So
well, I love that advice because that's exactly what I did. Like as soon as I was told I needed to back off of the caffeine, I was told, hey, you should just go without coffee. And I was like, I don't know if I can go without. Like I was having 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day at that point, and I was told it was too much. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is at play. Like I hadn't necessarily noticed anything for me. I wasn't crashing after the coffee or anything, but at that point I was also consuming the cleaner coffee. And so I dropped down. Lifeboost has a lot of different decaf flavors. And so I started doing half and half. Sometimes I'll even do straight decaf, just because for me, it is about, like, as crazy as it sounds, it's about holding the mug. It's about something warm. It is sort of a self-love thing.
Self-love thing.
And totally doable, even with, making alternatives that serve you better or serve your body better. So we certainly, I have to say this all the time, but make sure you're talking with this, with your doctor about this kind of stuff for those of you listening. Like it is an individual thing. But at the same time, like exactly like Charlie's saying, you may not have to go without, you might just have to make the switch to a cleaner coffee or to a half decaf cleaner coffee situation. So that's great advice. So I want to know sort of, what does your daily ritual look like with your coffee? You make it every morning, I'm assuming. I mean, how much are you consuming? Do you have a certain way that you make your coffee? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, no. So let me see my morning ritual. So I get up, I work out, I'll do my amino acids in the morning. And then I'll either do a greens powder or kombucha. And then usually around between 10 and 11 is when I'll have my coffee. And what I'll do is I'm a huge cold brew fan. So I'm always making cold brew. One, it's a little more caffeine. 2, even less acidic than our regular beans, like hot. So, and that's any coffee, if you do a cold brew, it cuts the acid in it. And ironically, a lot of people are choosing more cold brew coffee than anything else right now. I just learned that. I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Which if you look at Starbucks menu, you can tell it's like half cold brew stuff now.
Yeah.
But so I take that, I'll add our creamer, which is basically collagen, grass-fed collagen, C8 MCT oil, which MCT oil is great in itself, but the problem is that it can cause some digestive distress if people aren't used to it. So if you do straight C8, which is a little more refined version of it, they take out the ones that mess up your stomach. And C8 is the one that affects your brain the most. So, I'll put those in there and I'll blend it. And then I'll add a splash of organic heavy whipping cream for the healthy fat. So I don't do butter anymore. There's just been some, the research is kind of back and forth about how it raises cholesterol. But when you look at organic heavy whipping cream, it doesn't have that. So it doesn't affect your cholesterol. It doesn't have lactose in it. So it bypasses all the guts, just like butter. Butter also bypasses like all the lactose intolerance issues, right?
Right.
Lactose. Same with cream, heavy whipping cream. And it's got the healthy fats. And also with organic heavy whipping cream, it's got something called the milk fat globule membrane around it, which has all the immune properties.
Awesome.
That butter doesn't have. So those are the reasons why I choose organic cream. Plus, it just tastes way better. It's organic cream.
I'll have to try that because I'm somebody who does not do any dairy, but I can do grass-fed butter or ghee without any problem. Same for my daughter. So heavy whipping cream sounds like something I should try for sure. Cool. So cold brew. So do you have like a specific cold brew machine that you use or what do you do?
Yeah. So I went to Amazon and I get the OXO.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just this big like column thing and it'll make me about, probably 5 or 6 servings of coffee at a time.
Nice.
And then I just, when it's down to that last one, I'll just redo it again.
Redo it. Yeah. Well, my husband and I were looking for a new coffee machine and I was surprised by how many of them have the new, the newer ones that are out have like a cold brew function. So, I mean, obviously they're following the trends, but I just thought, when we bought this one, I think it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, we bought a really nice one and it's starting to kind of go kaput on us, but at the time we didn't see that. Like we didn't see cold brew, this one also does cold brew. Like, no, we never saw that before. So that's cool. So what's on the horizon for Lifeboost Coffee? Like, where do you see, what is your next sort of goal with the company or where are you headed?
Yeah. So the whole mission behind Lifeboost is to provide the healthiest, tastiest, lowest acid coffee on the planet. So everything we do revolves around healthy. It has to taste good and it needs to be easy on the gut. And so we'll keep bringing out more flavors. We're doing Lifeboost Africa. And so one of the things we also do is we're really big in sustainability. So as much as we can, we work on doing things like sustainable farming methods for the environment. And then like we do this in Nicaragua. So by happenstance, we realized that what we were doing was we were going into nations that don't have a popular coffee culture, but the coffee is amazing. And we're bringing it out to the world. So Nicaragua is one of those hidden gems. So we're doing that. We're building schools in Nicaragua as well. So we're really big at giving back as well as, taking care of the environment. So we're corporate sponsors of the Rainforest Trust. We're building our second school now in Nicaragua. And then we also are big at giving back to first responders as well and food shelters and stuff. So we give thousands of bags of coffee away a year just to those things. And then, so between those, the next goal is to really get our creamers dialed in. And so we can come out with a line of creamer. And from there, we talked about maybe doing some tea. We've been having people ask for tea. And then like functional coffees. So, functional coffee, an example of that would be Four Sigmatic and their mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
Super nice guys. I met those guys at a conference, doing great things. Excited for what they'll be able to do. They kind of put mushroom coffee on the roadmap there for everybody. So it's super interesting. But
we like the hot, my daughter likes their hot chocolate.
Yeah, yeah, their hot
That's a big
chocolate's
one.
really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do our versions of that. We have a biotics brew, which is we put probiotics in coffee, but you can only cold brew it, otherwise it kills a probiotic. So we have that. We'll probably do our own version of another functional coffee, looking into like more mitochondrial health stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
On how because your mitochondria are your energy centers in your body. So the goal of some of the things coming up is to not only give you the coffee that has the energy in it, but also some of the functional powders that can help stimulate your mitochondria to make energy on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the direction we're going.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think it's so cool how every time I'm on the website, checking it out, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's almost like so many flavors. I can't even decide. Like, so what would you say, like, what are your most popular flavors? What are the flavors that you like the most?
Oh
Like,
man.
let's get the people's taste buds thinking about.
Oh yeah. So one of our most popular flavors is cinnamon blueberry crumble.
Okay. That's different than the cinnamon roll, whatever that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different. We have a frosted cinnamon roll. That's that one goes up and down. It just depends. Part of it is like how much we market the flavor too, because like every flavor's got its own cult following. Like creme brulee, it's not one of my personal favorites, but people absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
The toasted coconut, that one's legit. That's one of my favorites, especially cold brewed on a hot summer day. It kind of gives you a taste of the tropics, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's totally different. Pistachio, that's another great one. And we have hazelnut, and it's amazing. Highlander grog, that's another. So the top three, which probably in any industry is going to be French vanilla, hazelnut, and coffee. And for us, it's Highlander grog.
Okay.
That's kind of one of those stable coffees that's been around for a while that, if you can get a good version, people just absolutely love it, just like you.
Yeah. The Highlander grog and the dark roast. I was surprised. I'm not usually like a dark roast coffee fan, but the dark roast is my favorite dark roast. Like it's definitely one of the only ones I can do. And I love it. And the Chemex, especially.
Yeah. Pour over.
Yeah. I wish I had the energy to do the Chemex every day.
I know.
The taste is just a different taste. So, okay. So let's kind of just wrap things up here. I want to kind of hear your perspective, because I know that you're really, interested in and involved in the health and wellness community. And I just would love to kind of hear your perspective on where you think things are going, trends that you see, whether it's trends, we've mentioned trends in coffee, but trends in just sort of brands maybe that you see, or trends in just, health products and health fads, I guess, that are coming into the future or coming into the light.
Yeah. No, one of the biggest fads I'm seeing right now is a carnivore diet, which is all meat, right?
Sure.
I think they can have eggs too. I'm not sure. It's something that I might experiment with for a few weeks at the beginning of the year. I don't think it's something like that is great long-term, although some people say it is. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of being a vegan, right?
I think I heard somebody talk about
being a vegan is a good long-term either. Just so we're on the same path. But
I heard somebody talking about the carnivore diet on a podcast, and can't think of the guy's name, but he literally only eats meat. Like it's literally only meat all day long. I don't know if I could do it.
Some people take it to the extreme and then they eat raw meat. Like straight up. Like,
I don't know.
Raw meat. I'm like, oh man, I don't know.
I can't even do raw fit. Like I can't even do raw sushi. Like
really?
No. I have to have cooked sushi. I can't do raw. Yeah.
So that's one of the big fads. Yeah. I mean, it's just like keto, it's still here. And that's like, it's good. I don't think it's great long-term. I think one of the best diets long-term is still a lower carb diet. Mm-hmm. Maybe not to the extreme as keto, but if you just keep the carbs down and you just eat clean sources of your foods, I think that's one of the best ways to go. And that's how I eat most of the time. It's like, except for right now. Right now I'm eating a ton of cookies. So don't judge my diet right now. So I always, usually the fall and winter months, towards from probably, I don't know, October on, I'm a little more lax with my diet. Not saying that I gorge myself with like baked goods all the time, but definitely I let up a little bit.
It is life. So you have to enjoy cooking.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
Food is a huge part of our world,
Well,
in our lives, right?
absolutely. Well, one of the things that, that I study specifically and that I'm teaching the women who are in my course is all about how, the female body really differs greatly from the male body. And we're
Oh, yeah.
starting to see, a lot of research finally coming out that is embracing looking at the female body. Prior to maybe 20 years ago, researchers have been quoted saying, well, of course we don't study the female body because it's too complex because of the hormone systems. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of things that have been noted as healthy, like the healthy trend is keto or the healthy trend is intermittent fasting. The research has actually been done on men and hasn't been done on women, or is just now being done on women. And so something that I was just recently introduced to is this concept of like a female oriented keto intermittent fasting option. So in other words, maybe the fasting window isn't as large as it would be for men. And this focus on healthier fats, the number one sort of commonality that I see in the women that I work with is there is never enough consumption of healthy fats. There might be there, and a lot of times, I mean, I avoid dairy in my diet, like I mentioned before, and that's something that I advocate for. But women in general tend to be really interested in sort of like the heavy carbs, the breads, the cheeses, the dairy. But when I ask them about olive oil, avocados, healthy nuts, right? That's like, I don't really eat those as much. And so, of course, when we start to look at hormone imbalance, we have to say, well, I can kind of see a connection here because all of your hormones are coming from cholesterol. All of your hormones are coming from that healthy fat that you're consuming. And when I also think about women who completely remove carbs from their diet, right? Like they say, oh, I'm just going to go on this. I know I need to do this. And they just eliminate carbs entirely, especially women who are also like me, who are training and exercising, they start to just completely run dry on energy.
Oh, yeah.
So, first of all, yes, there's no one size fits all for everyone. I think that certainly we're seeing these fascinating trends toward higher healthy fats, higher protein, quality of protein. We didn't even get to talk about like 100% grass fed, right? Like that matters. Like, it's funny to me because I just recently made a meal for some friends and that were sick. And so it was funny because my girlfriend reached out to me and she's like, oh my gosh, my husband raved about that meal. She's like, I told him it had to be grass-fed beef that Jenny used because I know that Jenny would only use grass-fed beef. And he's been telling her, no, we're not spending the money on we're not spending the extra money on grass-fed beef. And I guess it changed his mind because it was so good. But regardless of how it changed, how it tastes, there are small things that you can do in your health, whether it's switching to clean coffee, switching to 100% grass-fed, making these small adjustments that can make a huge impact on your health. And so, of course, to each their own. Everybody needs to work with their individual, dietitian or doctor to figure out what's right for them. But I think for me, these small steps are what eventually led to me really becoming so interested in all of this. Really what led me to really have that self-awareness of knowing like, wow, switching this does make a huge difference for me in my body. And I do feel better for it. So if nothing else, I hope everyone on this podcast has taken something from this to really believe that like these small tweaks can mean something for them. And if you want to check out Charlie's brand, it is Lifeboost Coffee, lifeboostcoffee.com. Charlie, do you want to tell us like where can people find you? Where can they find the coffee specifically?
Yeah, I mean, just go to lifeboostcoffee.com. I have an amazing customer support team. They'll help you. You can call in, and if you have any questions, they'll answer them for you and help you, order or whatever. Yeah, I mean, and if you want to get a hold of me, just put a note in there. Contact support at lifeboostcoffee.com. Put a note in there that you heard me on the podcast, on Jenny's podcast, and you want to talk to me or whatever, and I'll make time for you for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for your time. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.